Good evening, everybody. Hello, welcome back. Happy Wednesday. Um, very sad day in New York. So we are mourning and, of course, remembering and never forgetting the victims of 9/11. Today is September 11th. And I hope you perhaps share the thought at least, or watch the multiple ceremonies on television this morning. President Biden and Vice President Harris, along with former president and whatnot, traveled to New York to Ground Zero to commemorate and to remember the victims of 9/11. But I hope you personally had a good day, had a peaceful day. Perhaps you were upbeat since the debate last night. I certainly was. Very busy few days since President Biden was here and I was polling and, all that kind of stuff. But I will tell you all about it. Today's live stream is longer. So grab a snack, grab a drink, whatever beverage you like. I have coffee here, but we're gonna review some clips. We're gonna make it fun. Some things will be funny, some things will be straightforward, and we're gonna guide us through up until the debate. So the game plan today is, first we're gonna talk about the 9/11 and review how President Biden and Vice President Harris visited all the sites commemorating all the victims or remembering all the victims. Then we're going to talk about of course, some readouts, quick news, right, as I call it in my email, and I hope you're getting that newsletter. So we're going to have some readouts. Then we're going to proceed with the debate, and then finally we're going to finish off with the news, big news for Ukraine. As you may have heard, Secretary of State Blinken, together with his counterpart from the UK, Lammy, are in Kiev today. And so they have announced great news, and even better news are coming on Friday when President Biden will be meeting the UK's Prime Minister Starmer in Washington, D.C. They have their meeting scheduled at the Oval Office. So I'm going to tell you all about it, but we're going to take it from what did happen today to yesterday to what we expecting, right? Also, if you're keeping track, tomorrow, or if you want to keep track, tomorrow is a very busy day. Vice President Harris is traveling. President Biden is delivering remarks tomorrow at the White House. Second gentleman is traveling. Governor Walz is traveling. So I'm going to be streaming all their speeches, whatever is publicly available, everything will be here. So if you're subscribed on YouTube, please do so. Please subscribe. It's Onest Network on YouTube. If you prefer Twitter, if you're watching on Twitter, then you're good, right? Because you're going to get notifications whenever I go live and stream it. So you're going to have a possibility to review everything tomorrow. So you ordered pizza. Hey, Brandon, thank you. That's good. That's good. Good evening, Michael. Good evening. Yes, grab a snack, grab a drink, because that's going to be long here. But first and foremost, let's talk about today. What did happen today? Actually, let me take you back. Yesterday, President Biden arrived at JFK in New York. First, you see him here. I was there pulling, press pulling. And so he arrived in the evening, few hours later than he was scheduled to, because he went directly to the birthday of his granddaughter, Finnegan, in New York. Her birthday was day before yesterday, so they celebrated at a restaurant in downtown New York, downtown Manhattan. And then he went to his hotel, which was just one block away from the Trump Tower, where he, together with family, watched the debate. And so then Kamala Harris, after the debate, flew to New York. She flew to LaGuardia Airport, which is close by, but a different airport. And then today, for a weird reason, right? Because you probably have heard, Trump traveled to New York too. And for the very first time in his life, since 9/11 happened in 2001, this fella, let's call him a fella, since VP called him a fella yesterday, and you imagine whatever fella stands for, he showed up at Ground Zero. And he was confronted by New Yorkers, naturally, as to why the heck are you here, right? Are you going to use us now as a campaign prop? New Yorkers, really? So we're going to review that. I have all the clips and receipts for that. But why I'm telling you that now is that today we found out that he parked his Trump Force Plane 1 for him, and Trump Force Plane 2 for his side piece, Vance, who, by the way, is no longer doing the eyeliner. I think Maybelline sent cease and desist letter or something like that, but that is missing. It's certainly missing. The most recognizable part from Vance is missing. Anyway, they parked the planes on both sides of Air Force Two that Kamala Harris has been, traveling with and on. And so today, I don't know if it's related or not, but President Biden and VP Harris left earlier. They left right away after the ceremony. So there was no altercation with Trump's. Maybe Trump counted on it. Also, when they traveled to Pennsylvania after the ground zero stop, right? To visit the site where, to remember the victims of Flight 93 in Pennsylvania. Then when they were leaving, they also saw Trump's plane. So he was sort of like a following weird. Okay. So first things first. What happened yesterday is that President Biden proclaimed September 11th, 2024 as a Patriot Day and National Day of Service and Remembrance. And so he called upon all the governors, all the mayors to first of all hold minute of silence at 8:46, to moment of silence at 8:46 Eastern Daylight Time to honor the innocent victims who perished as a result of the terrorist attacks on September 11th, 2001. And then he also asked to lower the flags, to fly them at half staff and Patriot Day and National Day of Service, and remembrance in honor of the individuals who lost their lives on September 11th, 2001. So this was announced yesterday, leading up to today. And so then President Biden and VP Harris went to Ground Zero. If you have never been to New York, so Ground Zero is literally the place where the Twin Towers stood. And so it's a big hole, right? Pretty much in the ground. There's a water flowing down. I'm going to show you a video in case you're not familiar with Ground Zero. I know I have set some questions on Twitter. Where is Ground Zero? Is that DC? Is it New York? It is New York, and let's be patient and let's be mindful when people genuinely ask questions, because not everybody, and maybe luckily so, is familiar with Ground Zero. If you live in New York, certainly every second person almost is affected. Almost 3,000 people died on 9/11, and almost 6,000 people were affected, right? Whether right away or after. There are so many firefighters that face cancer and other diseases because they were working and saving lives on 9/11. So when we say never forget, it's very difficult to forget that if you are from New York. There was the life before and certainly life after. And very solemn, very sad day in New York. You always feel it. It's always actually a picture perfect day in terms of weather on September 11th. And we always remember this radio announcement on September 11th, 2001, when it was "Good morning, New Yorkers. It's a picture perfect day," and it's every time it is played every year, it's true. So somehow there's never bad weather on 9/11. So at Ground Zero was nearly silent, and I have a readout for you, as hundreds of families of 9/11 victims, most dressed in black, gathered for the ceremony. The sound of the memorial's waterfalls, because I will show you how it looks like, in case you're not familiar, blocked out any remaining sounds from the bustling city. About 24 9/11 victims laid roses, American flags, and a law enforcement thin blue line flag in a private ceremony on the grounds about 200 yards away from the stage where VP and President stood for the 8:30 a.m. ceremony. So, of course, this is the morning after the debate. This is the morning I'm going to review the debate. But I mean, unless you spend a day under a rock, you know that yesterday Kamala Harris pretty much walked Trump as a poodle. And today's the morning after. And so what did happen? Trump shows up suddenly. Eric Trump shows up. Of course, his side pieces, Vance, and all that kind of stuff. They're showing up as well. And they're standing right next to Rudy Giuliani, the disgraced Rudy. And I remember when he was supposed to be a hero in New York, right? When he handled 9/11 and, in 2001. And where are we now, right? Lost his law license, or it's just incredible. Anyway, so they stood right next to Bloomberg, Michael Bloomberg, former mayor, or as we call Nanny, of New York City, because he was prohibiting the headphones, he was prohibiting drinks, he was prohibiting anything and everything. So anyway, they're standing to Nanny Bloomberg, and right next to them is President Biden, and then Kamala Harris. So at some point, Trump, starts like hitting Bloomberg as to, hey, can you ask Harris to say hi to me or something? So watch this. I'm not making this up, by the way. I have receipts. Take a look. I don't know who that crazy woman is. Maybe that is the MAGA person that was paid to be there, because she was one and she was the loudest. One person. But if you think New Yorkers shared her opinion as to, Donald, we need you. No. Watch this video. Stay patient. Towards the end of the video, you're going to hear why I'm showing this to you. As you see, right? I'm here for 20 years. You have never showed your damn orange face here, or even before it was orange. Where were you? Where were you, Donald? Is it now all about the election, all about making or playing as if you care? You don't. We know it. We know it. And so then the national anthem played, and here's a picture of President Biden and Kamala Harris during the anthem. The first moment of silence was held at 8:46 a.m. to mark the moment that hijacked Flight 11 struck North Tower. Names of victims were read from the podium by relatives, some of whom offered personal testimonials to individual family members. A second moment of silence came at 9:03 a.m. to mark when hijacked Flight 175 struck the South Tower. The reading of the names then continued. The president, vice president, former president, and other elected leaders stood watching and listening. Among others, officials were, of course, the governor of New York, then also former mayor Rudy Giuliani, Homeland Security Secretary Alejandro Mayorkas, and Eric Trump. Also, what I mentioned is, if you're not familiar with Ground Zero, here's a great video that today was recorded by a wonderful person whom I follow on all social media, and I'll show you who that person is in case you're interested to follow New York videos. Take a look. That's Ground Zero.
And the blast of the raft.
And it's so interesting that so much has changed since then and so little has changed. But you have entire generations now, 23 years. Kids grew up without their parents or their family members. There are also those that were teenagers or perhaps even toddlers when their parents, perished. And so they read out poems, they come to ground zero pretty much daily. It can happen any day, it doesn't have to be on September 11th. Certainly, it is also a tourist site. But even as a tourist, when you go there, you feel the pressure, the atmosphere, and also if you are in New York, I truly suggest you to cross the street and go to a church where any like they're not just the ground zero, or not just the World Trade Center buildings fell, but also others. And it was just a whole mess. But the church across the street stood still. And people were hiding in it. Now they like have the uniforms of fireworkers and NYPD who were there, and the cross, right, that they took away, or they built a cross out of the remaining pieces from World Trade Center. So if you are in New York, cross the street, go to the church. That was the only thing that was or remained really untouched, and it was built in 1600 something. So, truly, truly recommending to do so. But if you're interested in New York videos, this is not a promo. This is just I genuinely follow New York City Cop. It's his last name, Cop, and he put such beautiful, really beautiful videos of New York all over New York. So please follow if you don't yet. Now, during the prayer, not everybody was praying. And guess who wasn't? Certainly who wasn't. Look at this guy. Everybody, even Vance pretends to care, and Giuliani and all that. Everybody is sad and thinking, oh, there's not just Eric. Look, Don Jr. was there too. Even Don Jr. pretends to care. And look at Trump. He's just reminiscing. Is he now thinking or regretting that his building, Wall Street, 40 Wall Street, is not the tallest anymore? And if you wonder, what the hell am I talking about? I'm talking about his infamous call. Maybe you remember, maybe you don't. Maybe you're not from New York, you're not familiar. In 2001, as the towers were hit, people were dying, everything was burning. Donald called on the news and said, and talked about, quote, amazing call that he got, that now his building is the tallest since the Twin Towers fell. Take a look.
You have one of the landmark buildings down in the financial district, 40 Wall Street. Did you have any damage, or did you know what's happened down there?
Well, it was an amazing phone call I made. 40 Wall Street actually was the second tallest building in downtown Manhattan, and it was actually, before the World Trade Center, was the tallest. And then when they built the World Trade Center, it became known as the second tallest, and now it's the tallest.
Can we say typical? Typical. Such a tool. Yeah, tool is a understatement, but I appreciate you being polite. His kids didn't put their heads down. Yeah, yeah. And Pete Davidson lost his father. Yes, and Donald is disgusting. And I'm reading all your comments. And listen, I was 15. It's just we think that it is so far away, right? If we think like I was 15, 37. But it kind of is like yesterday. We'll constantly, like we always will remember what we were doing, where we were, who we were with, right? Those are the moments where we remember. And by the way, somehow, let me know if that's for you too. Somehow I also remember the January 6th insurrection. How I was sitting at home. I never watched television, but I had television on. I was talking to a friend in San Francisco, Aaron, at the same time, or texting. And we're like, are you watching that too? Is that real? That's not a movie, right? That is, what the hell is happening? So those moments, somehow they will never be forgotten. Trump, as heartless always has been. It's why he watched millions die under him in pandemic and fell. There is no empathy. I think that feature is missing in that creature. His building is not in the top 3. No. And by the way, I know so many people who worked on his Trump Tower building that toilets are not flushing. They use the cheapest tile. Everything is falling, all that kind of stuff. So please, if it was built just to be there so investors would buy it, never use it, and then resell for profit, then certainly it probably fits the purpose, but in terms of living, not a good investment. Nobody's happy with their apartment. Um, so after that, after the ground zero visit, president and vice president were escorted onto the well, they traveled to Shanksville, Pennsylvania, and they visited the memorial's wall of names and stopped in front of a large wreath of white and red flowers mounted on a stand. President briefly touched the wreath, and the two of them then stood there solemnly and quietly for a couple of minutes, their heads bowed. Scores of onlookers watched wordlessly from behind the barriers. Placed in front of some of the panels on the wall are flowers, pictures, and Superman doll and wooden angel. Biden and Harris arrived at Shanksville Volunteer Fire Department later at about 1:30 p.m., where they greeted firefighters and paid their respects at a cross made from Flight 93 remains, right, or scraps, which stands outside the firehouse. Now, Harris appeared very respectful. New York Times was writing it. The puller was New York Times. So cut it some slack. Says she was solemn and respectful, flashing polite smiles occasionally as a firefighter spoke privately with voiceover and or anyway. So president brought also beer and pizza to the firefighters and relatives, according to the White House. Now, the photo that went viral, I want to address it, but I want to also share the story behind it. So at the Shanksville fire station, President spoke about the country's bipartisan unity, especially after 9/11, especially when such horrendous things happen. We need to be united. And he described 9/11 as a great example of that unity that we face. It did not matter who was Republican, who was Democrat, who was independent. Everybody united, everybody helped, right? So, and then he said that we needed to get that back as a gesture, right? So then a guy or somebody says, now I have a MAGA hat, right? Because they were in Shanksville. Everything was like, we need Trump. Trump is Jesus. Trump is saving the world. All of that stuff was surrounding this area. Certainly a MAGAville. And so a guy is handing him a cap and says, listen, if you believe in unity, then put that hat on. So president put his hat off, gave it to the guy, and the guy gave him a MAGA hat. So here's where this infamous picture comes from, because it's been shared by MAGA folks nonstop. So here's Biden with the MAGA hat on. As a gesture, he gave a hat to Trump supporter who then said that in the same spirit, president should put on his Trump cap. He briefly wore it. So that is the story behind this picture in the hat. So President Biden did not turn crazy or is now endorsing Trump, let this drama away. It was just his point. He had the story. Well, his point was that we need to be united as we were after 9/11. And then the guy said, listen, let's exchange hats to show that, we can be united. And that's what he did. You can judge him or what he did, whether it's right or not, then, that's up to us. I understand what he was doing, but it was bad optics. The context was always going to be lost. And Keith, I share your opinion. I really do. Because to your point, context will be lost on purpose. And so, especially after the debate, especially as Trump really had no place to be there at ground zero, and MAGA movement is really dying, anything that gives them content, really, anything that makes them, cheery to share and reshare and go viral with, that helps them. So for that reason, I'm saying it's for us to judge what he did. I'm explaining the context of what he did, but then whether it's right or not, it's up to him and up to us to have our own opinions. I certainly share yours, just to put it this way. Biden had a lighthearted moment. Exactly. But, to your point, you both are right. lighthearted moment, but then of course it will be shared as something different. So for us, it is important for us to know the truth and then neglect all this BS, right? Because BS is always going to be there. So then they went to Arlington. I shared the live stream that was on the White House page. It was a very brief live stream. So President and Vice President walked through a military honor guard to wrath decorated in red, white, and blue at 4:28 p.m. They bowed their heads and stood before it for a few moments before taps played. Also joining was Joint Chief Chairman Brown and Defense Secretary Austin. So they were all there. Also, some disregarding the it's not connected to this event, but this week also Secretary Austin will travel to the airbase and together with the First Lady Dr. Biden, and she will be talking to the kids. He will be talking to the military personnel, but they will be traveling together, holding an event together. I will share all the information about it. I think it's such a unusual union, but I think it will be very, very, maybe not fun, but very useful, remarkable, and valuable. So I will share all about it. I just literally got the email that they will be traveling. Also, President Biden will be traveling to Pennsylvania, Philadelphia on Monday. So if you are there and you want to visit or attend the event, please let me know. That's what I got since I was asking about the Investing in America series. I'm not sure if it's part of the series, but he is traveling on Monday to Philadelphia. So if you're there, keep an eye on it. He can do whatever the hell he wants to a point. Exactly. I mean, it's the Dark Brandon mode. It doesn't really matter. I think, it's also ballsy. Can you imagine Trump putting Harris Waltz hat? Hell no, right? Because his ego is so small and so fragile that he has to hold on to hats and caps and attire and all this crowd sizes because he is just so insecure. He is so unknowledgeable. He's just clueless, weird, weak, soft, which leads us to the debate. Let's get there. So, by the way, no. Before the debate, quick news. So, two things I want to share in case you overlooked it. It's very important news. So, the Treasury Department shared that since January 2014, nearly 50 million Americans have used the Affordable Care Act marketplaces for health insurance. Under the Biden-Harris administration, marketplace enrollment reached an all-time high of 20.8 million for 2024, with 18.2 million enrolling for the first time since January 2021. The administration's expansion of premium tax credits has made coverage more affordable, reducing premiums to $10 or less per month for 80% of customers. For the first time, those above 400% of the federal poverty level are eligible for these credits. The marketplaces are particularly vital in states that have not expanded Medicaid. Okay. And the second thing, which I posted about, I know I post a lot, so maybe we overlooked it, but I want to draw your attention to it. The Department of State has named 19 historically Black colleges and universities, HBCUs, for the 2023-24 academic year. This recognition, they recognize them as Fulbright HBCU institutional leaders for the 2023-24 academic year. This recognition highlights their significant involvement with the Fulbright program, encourages greater engagement from their communities, and promotes these institutions as destinations for international scholars. The 19 recognized HBCUs include Howard University, Spelman College, Xavier University of Louisiana, among others. The Fulbright program aims to reflect diverse U.S. and international societies through its various partnerships and initiatives, including those with diversity abroad and the White House Initiative on HBCUs. So, if you're part of it, certainly a reason to celebrate. Let me check your comments real quick. The Federal Reserve had positive news too. Yes, 2.5%. I posted about it. Take a look. It will be in your newsletter tonight. I just don't want to keep you for like 3 hours here, so I'm reducing some readouts. Joe Biden has, as they say, paid the freight and free to, Yep. Thank you, Sunflower. That's like the best comment of tonight. Thank you, Sunflower. You're welcome, Sunflower. Okay. All right. Um, Again, I will push it because it's useful. If you're not subscribed to the newsletter, please go ahead and do so. You're going to get your news sent to your email box. All the actual news, real news, everything that I'm not get, reading out here, not in detail or such detail, you will get to your email. And by the way, I also analyzed the entire debate yesterday too. So with clips and everything, so you can share it. And by the way, if you have the Substack thing, right, and you read the email and you want to share that video or a snippet of it, you mark it, or like on the video you press long with your finger on your phone, or and or the right click on your computer, and you can share it on X or whatever. So it's very easy to share it directly from the email. Just wanted to share. Glad you're feeling better. Thank you, Daniel. Yes, I'm feeling better. Yeah, I had to put myself together and just go to DC on Monday and then Tuesday, because I knew that this week will be very crazy, as much as next week too. I'm covering the AFA, the Air Force conference, where they will be revealing the brand new technology, brand new F-35s. I'm interviewing generals, and like, it's very busy week next week, and I hope you will be finding that useful. Bike multitasking. Oh, wow. That is good. That is good. I'm biking everywhere too, by the way. Okay. What I wanted to also briefly touch upon, you probably have seen the video of Tyreek Hill, right? The NFL star player, having predictably bad, violent interaction with police. The police were people of color, brown people, that certainly there is I was joining so many meetings and learning more about it, where it was shared with me that there is a certain not misunderstanding, but a certain tension between Latino, right, or Hispanic cops and, let's say, African American victims, right, or those who are committing crime, that if they have a chance, they will be violent to show who's the boss or so. So my point is, I want to learn more about it. You've seen the clip. You've seen that police lied about it. You've seen that the officer that stopped him, right, was sort of the more polite one than the one that suddenly came in, opened his door, and dragged him out with the face facing down on the floor, on a very hot day in Florida, right before the arena where he had to play. And so putting the knee on his back, and sort of, my whole idea, point or take is that if it weren't Tyreek Hill, if it weren't somebody who is a VIP, who is a celebrity, there would be a big chance that we would be having another I can't breathe moment and another George Floyd moment. So for that reason, we need to dive deeper. And I think we need to have more than one conversation. Same as when we are talking about school shootings. If we just talk about it when something did happen for a day or two, and then we don't talk about it anymore. If we only talk about police brutality when we see that for a day or two, and then we don't talk about it, then we won't be having any chance for a change, because it has to become a constant talk. It has to become a part of a continuous conversation so we can look for solutions. So my goal here is to interview people who are knowledgeable about it, who can explain to us and to me, a white blank person, what is going on, and to, most importantly, share with us what we can do, who we can talk to, who we can address to provoke change. And so with anything I do, I think always about what is the purpose of this. I don't want to cover this just for clicks and shares and to say, look, police brutality, this is a video, this is a celebrity, this and this happened. Oh my God, share, breaking news. That has been done a day ago. I want to have a conversation with people who are in charge and with people who are the victims. And so how can we find common ground? How can we move on? Now, especially as we're facing the danger, really danger of Trump potentially winning the White House and granting police with absolute immunity, which will allow them to do anything, which will then we won't even see those videos on television unless it is a celebrity. We would never hear about folks like George Floyd. We would never know what the hell happened because they would have the immunity. Forget camera footage, forget body cams. This will not be the case because, again, immunity. So we need to have conversations with those who are in charge of the rules, with those who are in charge of police, right? And to really get into the psyche behind it and seek solutions, as instead of just prayers and thoughts and all that kind of stuff. Keith says, a long way to go, but getting body camera policy was very big accomplishment for civil rights and justice reform. And I agree with you. But then if they are granted immunity, then all of that can vanish, right? So we need to have a conversation. What can be Trump proof, if anything, right? Because if we wait to see who will win, and God forbid some crazy stuff happens and he wins, what will we do then? That is my idea of covering it. Trump would give absolute immunity to bad cops, to any cops, good, bad, ugly, and whatever, and pretty. So for that reason, I will cover this, but I want to interview somebody who can teach us something rather than me showing you the videos for clicks and shares. Okay, so I have not forgotten about it. I wanted to ask President Biden about it, but he did not take questions in the pool when I was covering it. So, and you know me, I'm not going to scream and like harass people. So that's not my style anyway. All right, so now it leads us to the debate. So let me take you back. Yesterday morning, Harris Walz campaign issues a new ad. A new ad for a certain individual that it was mostly played in, of course, battleground states, but also in Mar-a-Lago area on Fox News. So take a look at the ad. You will recognize the fella that is staring or starring, whatever, in this ad. Take a look.
Here's a 78-year-old billionaire who has not stopped whining about his problems.
Oh, she had a big crowd. Oh, the crowd.
This weird obsession with crowd sizes. It just goes on and on and on. America's ready for a new chapter. We are ready for a President Kamala Harris.
I'm Kamala Harris, and I approve this message.
Then they flew drones. The debate started at 9. Trump was leaving his hotel, wherever he was, at 8:10, 8:15-ish. They flew drones right in that area with messages about crowd sizes, about anything that would provoke him. And so Trump shows up to the debate. Kamala Harris in the morning, she's already stomping the grounds. She is checking in the place where they were, how she's going to stand, where, what. I mean, she's a boss. She's doing boss moves. He was sitting at home eating whatever, watching Fox News and complaining that Fox was showing, Harris Walz campaign spokesperson, the ads, he was just all over the place. And then he shows up to the debate. And this is the moment where I think he lost. The handshake.
So let's now welcome the candidates to the stage. Vice President Kamala Harris and President Donald Trump.
Kamala Harris, let's have a good debate.
Nice to see you. Have fun.
Thank you.
Have fun. Take a look at his hair. Something did happen. What is that cuckoo's nest? Take a look at her smirk. That is the point, because you saw, right? She walks over to, ooh, wild. She walked over to him. He went straight to his podium. She walks over because they never met before. Why? Because this fella didn't show up to Joe Biden's inauguration. As you remember, he was flying in a helicopter saying, I'm going to get the biggest red carpet. And I remember I was covering it. And he was talking about, I'm going to get the biggest red carpet in front of my helicopter when I leave the White House with all that secret information in the boxes that he was then storing in his bathroom. Okay. And then the red carpet was like a little, like in the bathroom, you have like a little like mat, like a little thing, literally this big, like a red little thing that you kind of cleanse your shoes with at. That was his biggest red carpet. And I remember laughing about it. That went viral. Anyway, so that's why they never met. Also, he did not follow the rules as to this transition period, right? That Fox News is pushing every freaking time at every White House briefing. What about transition period? What are you planning to do? How are you going to transition? Transition. Meanwhile, they didn't transition anything. That's why he never had a chance to meet Vice President Harris. At that point, Vice President-elect. So for that reason, they met first time. And that's the handshake. Okay, loser-doozer? So now, let's review some clips. Those are the most memorable moments. Not much Trump, a lot of Harris. Because let's enjoy it. Why not? First thing, Trump gets him into the doo-doo. Because the first question was, are we better off than 4 years ago? Which Trump claims to be. Absolutely not. We covered it so many times. We can fact check you on economy many times. The economy is doing better. We had COVID. We had all of this. Now, Trump gets himself first into the doo-doo talking about black jobs.
Prisons and jails from mental institutions and insane asylums. And they're coming in and they're taking jobs that are occupied right now by African Americans and Hispanics and also unions. Unions are going to be affected very soon. And you see.
So naturally, Kamala Harris, the vice president and Madam President to be, fact checks him on economy.
I would like to let Vice President Harris respond on the economy here.
Well, I would love to. Let's talk about what Donald Trump left us. Donald Trump left us the worst unemployment since the Great Depression. Donald Trump left us the worst public health epidemic in a century. Donald Trump left us the worst attack on our democracy since the Civil War. And what we have done is clean up Donald Trump's mess. What we have done and what I intend to do is build on what we know are the aspirations and the hopes of the American people. But I'm going to tell you all in this debate tonight, you're going to hear from the same old tired playbook, a bunch of lies, grievances, and name-calling. What you're going to hear tonight is a detailed and dangerous plan called Project 2025 that the former president intends on implementing if he were elected again. I believe very strongly that the American people want a president who understands the importance of bringing us together, knowing we have so much more in common than what separates us. And I pledge to you to be a president for all Americans.
President Trump.
But then Trump thinks, wait a second, there was COVID. Ventilators, gowns, masks, right? Remember, he told us not to wear masks. Remember, actually, perhaps if you're not in news media, you kind of don't remember, but he created a tender, right? So he let every single state and every single governor to compete in price. Who will pay more to get those freaking ventilators and gowns? Making money off of it. His daughter registered a company in China buying coffins during COVID and importing them into the US. Like, take several seats. But he wants a credit for COVID.
Nobody's ever seen anything like it. We made ventilators for the entire world. We got gowns, we got masks, we did things that nobody thought possible. And people give me credit for rebuilding the military. They give me credit for a lot of things, but not enough credit for the great job we did with the pandemic.
Wow. Then he claims that babies can be aborted after being born. They can be just executed. And then he gets fact-checked by ABC anchors. Thank you, ABC anchors. As opposed to those stenographers at CNN, they actually did their job. Love it. Take a look.
Great courage in doing it. And I give tremendous credit to those 6 justices.
There is no state in this country where it is legal to kill a baby after it's born.
Ta-da! Now, January 6th, does Trump have anything to regret? Now, here's his chance to say, listen, I didn't mean that. I didn't mean that. I didn't mean to get juice everybody up and do the insurrection. Does he regret anything? Does he have the regret option in his psyche?
The president, you were watching it unfold on television. It's a very simple question as we move forward toward another election. Is there anything you regret about what you did on that day? Yes, sir.
I had nothing to do with that other than they asked me to make a speech. I showed up for a speech. I said, I think it's going to be big. I went to Nancy Pelosi and the mayor of Washington, D.C., and the mayor put it back in writing, as you know. I said, you know, this is going to be a very big rally or whatever you want to call it. And again, it wasn't done by me. It was done by others. I said, I'd like to give you 10,000 National Guard or soldiers. They rejected me. Nancy Pelosi rejected me. It was just 2 weeks ago. Her daughter has a tape of her saying she is fully responsible for what happened. They want to get rid of that tape. It would have never happened if Nancy Pelosi and the mayor of Washington did their jobs. I wasn't responsible for security. Nancy Pelosi was responsible. She didn't do her job.
The only tape you want to get rid of is that pee-pee tape that Putin has on you. Now, here's Kamala Harris fact-checking him for January 6th.
The question was about you as president, not about former Speaker Pelosi, but I do want Vice President Harris to respond here.
I was at the Capitol on January 6th. I was the vice president-elect. I was also an acting senator. I was there. And on that day, the President of the United States incited a violent mob to attack our nation's capital, to desecrate our nation's capital. On that day, 140 law enforcement officers were injured, and some died. And understand, the former president has been indicted and impeached for exactly that reason. But this is not an isolated situation. Let's remember Charlottesville, where there was a mob of people carrying tiki torches, spewing anti-Semitic hate. And what did the president then at the time say? There were fine people on each side. Let's remember that when it came to the Proud Boys, a militia, the president said, the former president said, stand back and stand by. So for everyone watching who remembers what January 6th was, I say we don't have to go back. Let's not go back. We're not going back. It's time to turn the page. And if that was a bridge too far for you, well, there is a place in our campaign for you to stand for country, to stand for our democracy, to stand for rule of law, and to end the chaos, and to end the approach that is about attacking the foundations of our democracy because you don't like the outcome. And be clear on that point. Donald Trump, the candidate, has said in this election there will be a bloodbath if this and the outcome of this election is not to his liking. Let's turn the page on this. Let's not go back. Let's chart a course for the future and not go backwards to the past.
Let me just follow.
But wait a second. At some point, Trump said that they lost the previous election by a whisker. So here's naturally, he gets fact-checked by ABC.
You said that sarcastically. You know that. It was said, oh, we lost by a whisker. That was said sarcastically. Look, there's so much proof. All you have to do is look at it. And they should have sent it back to the legislatures for approval. I got almost 75 million votes, the most votes any sitting president has ever gotten. I was told if I got 63, which was what I got in 2016, you can't be beaten. The election, people should never be thinking about an election as fraudulent. We need two things. We need walls. And we have to have it. We have to have borders, and we have to have good elections. Our elections are bad. And a lot of these illegal immigrants coming in, they're trying to get them to vote. They can't even speak English. They don't even know what country they're in practically. And these people are trying to get them to vote. And that's why they're allowing them to come into our country.
Your wife can't speak English, and I have a clip for you later. She has a book. Kamala Harris made a good point. Donald Trump is known for this "you're fired" phrase, but he was actually fired by 81 million people last time.
Donald Trump was fired by 81 million people. So let's be clear about that. And clearly he is having a very difficult time processing that. But we cannot afford to have a president of the United States who attempts, as he did in the past, to upend the will of the voters in a free and fair election. And I'm going to tell you that I have traveled the world as Vice President of the United States, and world leaders are laughing at Donald Trump. I have talked with military leaders, some of whom worked with you, and they say you're a disgrace. And when you then talk in this way in a presidential debate and deny what over and over again are court cases you have lost because you did, in fact, lose that election, it leads one to believe that perhaps we do not have in the candidate to my right the temperament or the ability to not be confused about fact.
Ha. Okay. But now we have a new election. Trump claims that Kamala Harris has no policy. She has no plan. She is just going by whatever Biden tells her to do. So does Trump have a plan?
Yes or no, you still do not have a plan.
I have concepts of a plan. I'm not president right now. But if we come up with something, I would only change it if we come up with something that's better and less expensive. And there are concepts and options we have to do that. And you'll be hearing about it in the not too distant future.
Now, who does have a plan is Kamala Harris, especially about Affordable Care Act, and she wants to also confront those lies about gun ownership and other cases too. Take a look.
Well, first of all, I absolutely support, and over the last 4 years as vice president, private health care options. But what we need to do is maintain and grow the Affordable Care Act. But I'll get to that, Lindsay. I just need to respond to a previous point that the former president has made. I've made very clear my position on fracking, and then this business about taking everyone's guns away. Tim Walz and I are both gun owners. We're not taking anybody's guns away, so stop with the continuous lying about this stuff. As it relates to the Affordable Care Act, understand, just look at the history to know where people stand. When Donald Trump was president, 60 times he tried to get rid of the Affordable Care Act. 60 times. I was a senator at the time when I will never forget the early morning hours when it was up for a vote in the United States Senate. And the late, great John McCain, who you have disparaged as being, you don't like him, you said, at the time because he got caught. He was an American hero. The late, great John McCain, I will never forget that night, walked onto the Senate floor and said, no, you don't. No, you don't. No, you don't get rid of the Affordable Care Act. You have no plan. And what the Affordable Care Act has done is eliminate the ability of insurance companies to deny people with pre-existing conditions. I don't have to tell the people watching tonight, you remember what that was like? Remember when an insurance company could deny if a child had asthma, if someone was a breast cancer survivor, if a grandparent had diabetes? And thankfully, as I've been vice president, and we, over the last 4 years, have strengthened the Affordable Care Act, we have allowed, for the first time, Medicare to negotiate drug prices on behalf of you, the American people. Donald Trump said he was going to allow Medicare to negotiate drug prices. He never did. We did. And now we have capped the cost of insulin at $35 a month. Since I've been vice president, we have capped the cost of prescription medication for seniors at $2,000 a year. And when I am president, we will do that for all people, understanding that the value I bring to this is that access to health care should be a right and not just a privilege of those who can afford it. And the plan has to be to strengthen the Affordable Care Act, not get rid of it.
Vice President Harris,
in terms of where Donald Trump stands on that.
I want to move to
Trump also posted on Twitter that he hates the Affordable Care Act because then you will be, quote, stuck in the meeting or in the rooms at the hospitals with the poor people. So rich people, he says, naturally want to have an expensive insurance and want to visit places where poor people cannot go. So he really doesn't want to have Affordable Care Act because he doesn't think about you. He only thinks about himself. And in terms of, I see your messages, comments as to he didn't have a plan. He wouldn't even read a plan unless it would have pictures. He wouldn't attend a briefing or open the file with briefings unless it had pictures. They had to cut out pictures and articles about him every morning to have his attention in the briefing. And at night, his staff would put together a compilation video of lions and tigers eating their victims, so to speak, prey. That's Donald Trump. Okay. So, but now let's talk about race, right? Remember, he said Kamala Harris was Indian, now she's black. Now, what's going on with that?
And Trump, thank you. I want to move on now to race and politics in this country. Mr. President, you recently said of Vice President Harris, quote, "I didn't know she was black until a number of years ago when she happened to turn black, and now she wants to be known as black." I want to ask a bigger picture question here tonight. Why do you believe it's appropriate to weigh in on the racial identity of your opponent?
I don't, and I don't care. I don't care what she is. I don't care. You make a big deal out of something. I couldn't care less. Whatever she wants to be is okay with me.
But those were your words, so I'm asking.
I don't know. I mean, all I can say is I read where she was not black, that she put out, and I'll say that. And then I read that she was black, and that's okay. Either one was okay with me. That's up to her.
I want to ask Donald if he understands the idea of biracial. And also, can Donald please identify himself, because he used to be not orange and now he's orange. So what is this type of race? Is that a disease? Is this a race? What is that? Donald, what is it? And now, Kamala Harris had a viral moment. It's just 5 seconds. But she sort of played this fill the gap game. Take a look.
And this former president.
And here's Wanda Sykes speaking for all of us.
I keep thinking about that debate. And the thing that stayed with me is how she was able to call him a motherfucker without calling him a motherfucker. That was genius. With just a look. And we all heard it. When she said,
and this former president.
We all heard it. We all heard her call him a motherfucker without calling him a motherfucker. This was genius.
Nice stuff. And by the way, I think, we all thought something, whether it was this word or maybe another word, but it was certainly the fill the gap moment, fill in the gaps moment. Loved it. Now, moving on, national security, foreign policy. Trump talks about Ukraine would be never invaded under him. Meanwhile, Ukraine was invaded in 2014 under Obama. What is he talking about? Here's Kamala Harris.
It is very well known that Donald Trump is weak and wrong on national security and foreign policy. It is well known that he admires dictators, wants to be a dictator on day one, according to himself. It is well known that he said of Putin that he can do whatever the hell he wants and go into Ukraine. It is well known that he said when Russia went into Ukraine, it was brilliant. It is well known he exchanged love letters with Kim Jong-un. And it is absolutely well known that these dictators and autocrats are rooting for you to be president again because they're so clear they can manipulate you with flattery and favors. And that is why so many military leaders who you have worked with have told me you are a disgrace. That is why we understand that we have to have a president who is not consistently weak and wrong on national security, including the importance of upholding and respecting in highest regard our military.
Vice President.
But how about some conspiracy theories about dogs and cats being eaten? Here's Donald.
In Springfield, They're eating the dogs, the people that came in. They're eating the cats. They're eating the pets of the people that live there. And this is what's happening in our country, and it's a shame.
Let's ask the dogs what they think about it. This video is hilarious.
My dog was taken and used for food. So maybe he said that, and maybe that's a good thing to say for a city manager.
I'm not taking this from
but
television.
But the people
I'm
on
taking it from
television
the city
saying
manager.
their dog was eaten by the people that went there.
Again, the Springfield city manager says there's no evidence of that. Vice President Harris, I'll let you respond to the rest of what you've heard.
You talk about extreme.
Dog was hiding. The dog is like, I'm out of here. Who is this guy? Now we talk about the dogs, but how about cats?
They're eating the cats. They're eating the pets of the people that live there.
Anyway, Trump accepted every single bait Kamala Harris offered him. And he ran with conspiracy theories. Just, it wasn't the MAGAville that was listening to him. It wasn't really the Hannibal Lecter moment where people would be cheering that he wants to have you for dinner. It's flat jokes, right? The IQ level, the average IQ level was way higher than normally. So, no. Same as calling Kamala Harris a Marxist.
Everybody knows she's a Marxist. Her father's a Marxist professor in economics, and he taught her well. But when you look at what she's done to our country, and when you
Google Marxist. But all the jokes aside, I want to share with you the full closing statement, 2 minutes and 9 seconds of Kamala Harris.
So I think you've heard tonight two very different visions for our country. One that is focused on the future, and the other that is focused on the past, and an attempt to take us backward. But we're not going back. And I do believe that the American people know we all have so much more in common than what separates us. And we can chart a new way forward. And a vision of that includes having a plan, understanding the aspirations, the dreams, the hopes, the ambition of the American people, which is why I intend to create an opportunity economy, investing in small businesses, in new families, in what we can do around protecting seniors, what we can do that is about giving hardworking folks a break and bringing down the cost of living. I believe in what we can do together that is about sustaining America's standing in the world and ensuring that we have the respect that we so rightly deserve, including respecting our military and ensuring we have the most lethal fighting force in the world. I will be a president that will protect our fundamental rights and freedoms, including the right of a woman to make decisions about her own body and not have her government tell her what to do. I'll tell you, I started my career as a prosecutor. I was a DA, I was an attorney general, a United States senator, and now vice president. I've only had one client, the people. And I'll tell you, as a prosecutor, I never asked a victim or a witness, are you a Republican or a Democrat? The only thing I ever asked them, are you okay? And that's the kind of president we need right now. Someone who cares about you and is not putting themselves first. I intend to be a president for all Americans and focus on what we can do over the next 10 and 20 years to build back up our country by investing right now in you, the American people.
Vice President Harris, thank you.
Thank you indeed. And by the way, if you want other people to know more, please retweet this video as you watch now. It doesn't cost you a thing, but maybe people are needing to review the debate and some viral moments or most memorable moments, most valuable moments. So I'm not wasting anybody's time. Please retweet it. Not going to cost you a thing, or whatever you do on YouTube. Newsletter. The clips are in the newsletter. It was sent out yesterday. It's free. You can have all the clips there so you can review it for yourself and share as well. So moving on. Afterwards, Vice President Harris visited the watch party. So it was organized in also in Pennsylvania. And so she spoke to the supporters and to the media. Take a look.
And so we've got some work to do because, listen, I think that we think today was a good day, and it kind of was. But we have 56 days to go, and guys, we're still the underdogs in this race. It's tight. We have got to win Pennsylvania. And we are going to win Pennsylvania. And it is because of you. It is because of you who have signed up, who have volunteered. You are organizing. You're helping us to email and text and knock on doors and talk to your neighbors and your friends. And here's the thing about the spirit of our campaign. It is people-driven. It is about the people. It is about uplifting our country. This is a campaign born out of love of country. We love our country. We believe in who we are. We believe in the American people. This is a campaign about bringing folks together, knowing the vast majority of us have so much more in common than what separates us. It is about inclusion, and it is not about division, and it is not about demeaning and name-calling. It is about lifting folks up, working folks, families, children, people who are not just trying to get by, but trying to get ahead. That's what we stand for. So let's get out here for these next 56 days. Hard work is good work, and we will win. We will win.
And by the way, I shared the comments from the second gentleman as well as all those off the mic comments because mics were muted, all reported by the 3 people who were there. Only 3 pool people, editorial, picture, and video, were allowed to be in the room. So I shared that in the newsletter last night. So take a look. If certainly it's fun to read and it's useful too. Now, what did media say? Here's Chris Wallace on CNN.
I didn't think I was ever going to witness a debate as devastating as the one that you and Dana moderated back in June, where Joe Biden basically tanked his reelection campaign. I think tonight was just as devastating. I think that Kamala Harris pitched a shutout on almost every subject I can think of. She shut Trump down on abortion. She shut Trump down on January 6th and democracy. She shut him down on national security and turned to the former president and said, the military leaders who served with you think that you're a disgrace. And then, as Dana mentioned, very powerfully at the end, made the point that she is the candidate of change, and we need to turn the page from a decade of division and polarization. On substance, I think she pitched a shutout, and I think she did on style as well.
Again, Dana and Tapper. What's the use here? Stenographers. Here's Tim Walz.
Yeah, that's who this guy is. And let's be very clear. This is a threat to the democracy. It is the most treasonous thing you can do to undermine what was fair and free election. He's never had anybody support anything other than a pillow guy support his insane rhetoric around this. But look, this is dangerous. 140 police officers were hurt and some were killed. This has caused issues across this country. The campaign, we're ready for this. We know it's going to be a tough race. We know that he's not going to probably concede. That's why I say once again to Americans, get out there, get engaged, make sure that we're doing everything necessary. And I'm going to give a huge thank you to those election workers, folks like my mom, who's been a poll watcher for years, folks that are on the Republican, Democrats, independents, who do the hard work of democracy for no money. They're being put at risk by the recklessness of Donald Trump because he can't, at nearly 80 years old, do something that my 4th graders, when I taught them, did. When you lose a game, you go shake hands and you congratulate the other person and you move on. We're in this together. This guy cares nothing about the democracy. He cares nothing about the American people. He cares about himself and himself only. So again, I appreciate the moderators calling him out on this, re-questioning him on it, making it clear that he's not lost. But look, this guy is a threat. This is going to be a close election. We know it comes down to the battleground states. So.
And Daniel, to your point, 3 people from Onest Media, not yet, but we're working on it. So we have a very good person now we're working with in terms of video and photos. So more things to come. Here's Mitt Romney.
This was classic President Trump performance. In the case of Kamala Harris, most people didn't know her terribly well, other than a few clips that were not flattering that you might see on the internet. And people saw, oh, actually, she's an intelligent, capable person who has a point of view on issues, and she demonstrated that time and again.
But if you think everybody thought that way, certainly Trump didn't. And so who I just mentioned, right? Our partner in crime or partner in actual news, photographer, videographer, was there and said that it's the first time that a candidate came to a spin room. Spin room, if you're not familiar with that, it's held at the debate, right? It's a room where thousands of people, it's media people, also any surrogates, um, Congress people, right? Those who want to spin, right? Spin the narrative, spin the idea. That's why it's called the spin room. So candidates never go to the spin room, but Trump did. Here you go.
Did you have fun?
I had a good time. I think it was our best debate ever. I thought it was really good. We had 3 against 1, but I anticipated.
Let's talk about that. 3 against 1, and all of her radical positions they leave on the table.
Yeah. No, we had a lot of negative kind of stuff. Look, I saw on your show last night, they had 100% positive coverage on ABC, and I had 94% negative coverage.
93% negative.
I exaggerated.
You got an extra percent non-negative.
Maybe because you're lying and you don't like when you are fact check on this lying. But today he called his favorite channel, Fox News.
Economy, what's your reaction to why did the moderators correct her?
Because they're dishonest, and because I think ABC took a big hit last night. I mean, to be honest, they're a news organization. They have to be licensed to do it. They ought to take away their license for the way they did that.
License? What license? License to host debates? You just don't like to be fact-checked, and you stated here today. In the world of boxing or UFC, when a fighter gets beaten or knocked out, they get up and scream, I demand a rematch, I demand a rematch. Well, it's no different with the debate. She was beaten badly last night. Every poll has us winning. Every poll you are shown has you winning, same as those shark videos and you know, the shit show. 92-8. So why would I do a rematch? Honey, you're not capable. You said this is your best debate. You said this is the biggest success. Is this the picture of success? It looks like you're either throwing up or holding a fart. I'm not sure. And now your supporters are spreading this nonsense. Unfortunately, okay, jumping the gun here. What is this? This is not a picture of strength. This is a picture of very, very bad weakness. Weakness, honey bunny. You know, New York Times even says Harris puts Trump on the defensive in a fierce debate. Kamala Harris took the debate stage, shook Donald Trump, shook his hand, and then spent the next 90 minutes making every effort to get under his skin. And she did so masterfully. Come on now. Come on now. You know, also what I want to share is that Taylor Swift posted her endorsement for Kamala Harris last night, right after the debate. It's a long statement where she says that she did her research about the topics and the values and the priorities of both candidates, and she's voting for Kamala Harris. She's encouraging everybody to do their own research, and she signed it as Taylor Swift, childless cat lady, which provoked MAGAville to issue responses such as this. Unfortunately, her endorsement will matter a lot. Taylor Swift's fan base is overwhelmingly women with an IQ of 86, that lack critical thinking skills and think Trump bad. Come on, misogynist. Women are far more susceptible to propaganda than men are. Really? If we repeal the 19th and amendment, of course, and women didn't vote, we wouldn't have to worry about Kamala being president. How butthurt are you? We're not going back, we're going forward, honey bunny. What was yesterday was this. She put your candidate, if we may call him this way, into a dumpster fire. Or, as Time would put it this way, one man out, the woman comes in to lead. Just look at this. Women know this. Women know this look. When you look at a guy where his only one brain cell is trying to pull the load, he's suffering. Dude was suffering. And today I was in New York, and take a look on the streets right in front of the Trump Tower. I love this guy. My cat is smarter than Trump. How can you tell when Trump is lying? His lips are moving. Trump, Russia's useful idiot. And he says if you elect Kamala Harris, Donald Trump will go to prison. Now, trolling can be played with both sides, right? It's a game that both people can play. And so, those weird ads that Trump puts out. Now, liberals put this out. Get ready for your next insurrection in style. Trump Caskets introduces our exclusive 2025 insurrection collection. Trump might have won, but I died. MAGA for life. Crypt a keeper special. Don't miss your chance to show your devotion. Don't get caught dead without one. Sad, but freaking funny. It is funny. Now, if we talk about crazy people, right? And we talk about Taylor Swift, right? Putting this statement endorsing Kamala Harris and saying she's a childless cat lady, that provoked somebody who has been spreading his semen all over the world. The owner of the platform Twitter. Fine, Taylor, you win. I will give you a child and guard your cats with my life. The same owner of Twitter who just was sitting right here in New York City, actually in Queens, right next to CNN owner David Zaslav at the US Open. What was he talking about? He was just sitting last year, or was it the soccer World Championship, World Cup? He was in Saudi Arabia. He was sitting next to Fox owner Murdoch and now CNN Zaslav. What's going on, Elon? And by the way, I found a weird, we claim it weird now, right? Video of Elon Musk. Remember, he joined SNL. What we don't know that he had ideas. He brought ideas. This video is 3 minutes, but please listen to it. Please try not to throw up. This is not my intention, but you might feel the urge.
Okay.
Here we go.
All right, here we go, guys. All right. So one of the things that I think everyone's been sort of wondering this whole time is Saturday Night Live actually live? Like live, or do they have like a delay, or like just in case there's a wardrobe malfunction or something like that? Is it like a
truly live
5-second delay? What's really going on? But there's a way to test this.
Right. We came up with a way.
There's a way to test this, which is we don't tell them what's going on. As I walk on, it says, "This is the script." I'll throw it on the ground. We're going to find out tonight. Right now,
if Saturday
Night Live is actually live. And the way that we're going to do this is I'm going to take my cock out.
This is the greatest pitch ever.
And if you see my cock, you know it's true. And if you don't, it's been a lie.
It's been a lie. All these years.
All these years.
Now this is.
We're going to bust them right now.
And we're pitching this.
Yeah. So we're pitching this
on Zoom.
Yeah, we're pitching this on Zoom on like a Monday after
COVID.
We're like kind of hungover from the weekend, and we're like pitching this
we're
at like
in
noon.
Miami. Yeah.
And it's Jason's on. And
Mike and you.
Yeah, and Mike. So essentially got like my friends who I think are sort of quite funny. Jason's quite funny. I think like Jason's the closest thing to Cartman that exists in real life.
We have a joke going that he's Butters and I'm Cartman.
Yeah. So, and then my friend Mike's pretty funny too. So we come in like guns blazing with like ideas and we didn't realize like actually that's not how it works and yes. That's normally like actors and they just get told what to do and like
right.
Well, you mean we can't just like do funny things that we thought of? What?
They're watching this and on the Zoom they're aghast at Elon's pitch.
Yeah, it's silence. Like so I'm like and I was like, is this thing working? Is this?
It's like, are we muted?
Is our mic on?
And they're like, we hear you.
Yeah, and then.
I feel bad for the aliens, right? If they see this guy representing the human race on Mars, they might think we all are like this. Oh, God. This is the richest guy? This the guy that Trump wants to oversee the government's efficiency at the White House if you elect him? If we elect him? vote accordingly. Now, weirdness continues. Melania Trump wrote a book. She could have only gotten, if it worth of anything, right, if it was like a collection of Michelle Obama's speeches. But this is some nonsense she wrote. And she recorded a video talking about Trump's attempted insurrection. I think it looks like AI. Let's watch this. Let me know if you agree with me.
The attempt to end my husband's life was a horrible, distressing experience. Now, the silence around it feels heavy. I can't help but wonder, why didn't law enforcement officials arrest the shooter before the speech? There is definitely more to this story, and we need to uncover the truth.
Melania, we want to uncover the truth too, because your husband with the ear and stuff, fast healer-ish, I share your doubts. I just don't share your propaganda here. Because I think who benefited from it and from those fight photos that are on every single thing he is grifting and selling, as much as you selling your book, it only benefits him. By the way, if you're wondering about the book, the person who pulled for us today, Peter Baker from New York Times, so cut him a slack. He says in his new coffee table book, Trump includes 10 pages of photos with Kim Jong-un, suggests Canada's Trudeau is Castro's secret love child, and says Zuckerberg will spend the rest of his life in prison if he does anything illegal. So I guess Trump is coming up with the book too. God, Jesus. Okay, let's back to reality, back to gravity. Let's talk about Ukraine. Two things. Let's talk about Ukraine, and I have a clip from China. Okay. Actually a fun clip. So Foreign Secretary, UK Secretary Lammy and Secretary Blinken opened a new bilateral strategic dialogue, highlighting its importance for maintaining strategic alignment on key global issues. So Lammy emphasized the long-standing partnership between UK and the US, which dates back to Foreign Secretary Ramsay MacDonald's era, and expressed personal appreciation for the relationship. He noted that dialogue's potential to enhance collaboration on challenges such as Russian aggression, Iranian activities, Middle East stabilization, and issues in the Indo-Pacific. Blinken praised the UK's crucial partnership and the immediate efforts of Lammy and the UK's team. He underscored the significance of working together on pressing global issues and ensuring strategic alignment. Both officials expressed commitment to ongoing discussions and collaboration to address these challenges effectively. So, U.S. Secretary Blinken and UK's Foreign Secretary David Lammy traveled to Ukraine today. As you see here, excuse me, they're here meeting the new Foreign Minister of Ukraine. And what was announced today is that during the visit, Secretary of State Blinken announced more than $700 million in new aid to support Ukraine, amid ongoing Russian aggression. The funding will be allocated as follows: $325 million for energy infrastructure to repair and enhance power facilities, nearly $290 million for humanitarian aid, including essentials like food, water, healthcare, and over $102 million for demining efforts to clear landmines and unexploded ordnance. Now, the U.S. Department of State also, as you have probably heard, Iran is now sending, it's rumored to be 200 ballistic missiles to Russia. So in response, U.S. Department of State has imposed new sanctions targeting Iran and Russian entities due to their involvement in destabilizing activities. What's happening? They want me to shut up about Ukraine. No. Also, there was a summit on Crimea today in Ukraine as well. And there, the Erdogan, right, the dictator of Turkey, who always wants to play both sides. He wants to be in NATO, he wants to be in EU, but he wants to be friends with Russia. He announced the following, which is a pretty big statement. So he says, quote, "Our support for Ukraine's territorial integrity, sovereignty, and independence is unwavering. the return of Crimea to Ukraine is a requirement of international law. Erdogan says that. Friends with Putin. Now, his notion is he likes the Tatars, right? The those who were in the Crimea, right, peninsula. Those he wants to work with them because those are native to Crimea. He's interested to have a partnership with that, and also Turkey is right across the Black Sea that is not as large as ocean or anything. So it's better to have a reliable partner there than Russia that will certainly invade everybody. And him as a friend of Putin, he probably can guesstimate it. Okay. He also said, quote, "Our sincere wish is for the war to end with a fair and lasting peace based on Ukraine's territorial integrity, sovereignty, and independence." Now, what has been sort of announced and pre-announced that yes, Ukraine will be allowed to strike deep into Russia. As I explained to you, it is very important to prevent the missile strikes. Now, it will be announced allegedly tomorrow that UK will allow to use Storm Shadow for those strikes. Now, on Friday, Prime Minister of the UK, Stormer, is traveling to Washington, D.C. to have a meeting with President Biden at the Oval Office. It is guesstimated that Biden will then announce that yes, Ukraine can use also ATACMS and American aid, right, or resources to strike deep into Russia. So all of this is expected. I know we pushed so much for it, so I think it's a cumulative effort, and we certainly did it. Now, the video I want to show, the pre-last video, is of President Zelensky getting personal as to the impact of war on him, his family, and even his parents. Take a look.
Найскладніше, найостанніше і найскладніше. Я їх люблю. Безумовно, свою дружину. Мої діти, головні люди для мене. Не часто бачу. Батьки, їх зовсім не бачу. А дружиною пишаюсь дуже сильно. Вважаю, що вона робить все заради, я просто розумію, що вона за людина, заради дітей і держави. Ну, хотілося б, щоб трішки заради мене, а вже ж, я так жартую. В серці вони всі є, в серці. І ви бачите, я вам сказав чесно, що це буде найскладніше. І тому не можу нормально вам відповісти. Головне їх не підвести. Головне, щоб моїми дітьми, щоб мої діти пишалися мною.
Yeah, to your point, I remember that too. That's when he became the war president. It's different to be a president and a war president. Those are very two different things when you have to certainly pick up and fight, right? And he stayed. He said, I don't need a ride, I need ammunition. He's still there. So many, even if you would have asked me, I would not guesstimate him to behave this way, but he's certainly Kamala Harris, to her point. She traveled with a CIA director to Ukraine, and she multiple times told Zelensky that you will be invaded. My parents have a house right next to the Russian border. We saw the troops lining up. I worked for UN, Security Council, Middle East, with wars. When you mobilize troops, you don't do it for kicks and giggles or shits and giggles. You do it to invade. They have to be on the move. Otherwise, they will be, losing the ordinance. So Zelensky then recorded a video saying, oh, we're going to have picnics. They're going to be those, all the fun stuff this summer. Focus on that. The invasion will not happen. And then invasion happened. And it happened on a holiday. For this reason, for instance, when it comes to my family, when I demanded my family to move away, come here, weeks in advance, at that holiday, they certainly would have been at that house. So many people were outside the city, right, where they were invaded first. And so people were trying to come back to the city. The city was Kharkiv, I'm talking about. The city was surrounded by Russians. They were shooting people, complete families in the cars, people who I know. It's horrible, and it was happening all across the country. It's funny. Well, not funny. It's ironic. We watched ABC. David Moore, whatever Moyer, whatever how you pronounce his last name. We watched his news, and he said Ukraine being invaded, and then we're looking at the missiles flying. And I remember my mom saying, "It's Kiev, it's this, but it's not Kharkiv." And then suddenly we see everywhere, from everywhere, they're coming at 4 a.m. on a holiday. And that's the surreal moment, like 9/11. You always will remember where you were, how it happened, and how Zelensky at that point, that's where he got that empty look. He always, by the way, as much as Biden, he said, "I'm transitional president. I will be here only for one term," but who knew? But he stayed. And that's what counts the most. Now, as to your point, I think Keith mentioned it, that leaking information on strikes is not smart. That is the delay. Word on the street is that, that is the delay with the announcement until they really know. Okay? So, now the last video I want to share with you is from China. They broke a new world record for the largest synchronized drone show. 8,100 drones could be seen in the sky over Shenzhen. AI synchronized drone swarms will likely also play a large role in future warfare. So the rumor on the street is that they did this whole show that looks like a show, but they were testing some technology as to how their troops or military can work with AI. And by the way, since I'm covering the AFA conference, Air Force conference next week, I get readouts and I talk to the companies that will be presenting F-35s and stuff like that. Everything includes AI. So it is everywhere. It's not just China. We're not behind. But they certainly broke now this record with the biggest drone show. Take a look. Pretty huge. And Michael was that with a comment. Yes, thank you, Michael, and thank you, Keith, for pointing it out. They broke the record and they tested the system how to synchronize them. That drone show is nutty. Yeah, it's like it's pretty on a different level. It will be good to hear the restrictions have been lifted regardless, indeed. And so we're guesstimating that to be for Great Britain tomorrow and then for US on Friday. So let's take a look. Let's wait, right, first. Also on Friday, President Biden will in the morning host a brunch at the White House on the South Lawn, celebrating the Black excellence. And so there will be prominent people. He will be talking about the impact of African Americans on the U.S., not just culture, but technology and science and different aspects and industries. So I will be streaming it. I will not be in DC just because I'm in DC next week. So have to balance a little bit. All right. So this is everything for me. We spent an hour and 35 minutes. I thought it will be like over 2 hours with all those clips, but please stay awake, or don't stay awake, and for tomorrow morning, check your email that I will be sending out later tonight with a bunch of other news. What you pointed out, the 2.5 percent inflation, like all the announcements from the Treasury. So I'm going to share it in the email. So subscribe if you haven't yet. It's free, onest.substack.com. And if you're watching on YouTube, please subscribe. If you're watching on Twitter, share, whatever, retweet. Always forget to do that. But the point here is, it's not for me to gather numbers. I don't really give anything about followers and whatever. It's for us to spread actual news. That is the most important part. The newsletter is read every night by 12,000 people. Not everybody is subscribed, but I really want you to be subscribed so you get your email. But the point, and we just started it literally a few weeks ago, but the point is for you to understand that we have news that matter, that President Biden is doing great job, that the Harris campaign is doing good job, right? That we have actual news, right? For instance, today, President Biden gave aid to 3 states because of this new hurricane and storms. This is all very important. So I really encourage you to subscribe and read it. Some days will be mostly with clips, like yesterday's debate coverage. So you have the proof and the receipts and everything. You can keep track of it in case you don't want to watch the debate, or you missed it and it's 2 hours out of your life you don't want to spend on watching it. But others will just always have those news. And I also included the quick news rubric, which is like, a few sentences about everything, so you don't read full articles about everything. So really, really would be grateful for you to subscribe. And if you decide to support, I really, really appreciate you. Okay. It's done. It's over. So I'm going to see you tomorrow night. Per usual. What is tomorrow? Thursday. I will be tuning in earlier tomorrow. Actually, I will put a voting thing. Do you want me to be at 9 p.m. or at 5 p.m.? Because I have work in between. It's a meeting, so I can't skip it. So you'll vote for tomorrow if you want to see me earlier or later. And we will have our live stream, and then Friday per usual as well. So thank you, everybody. Thank you, Brandon. Thank you, Michael. Thank you, Daniel. Why you ever try a podcast? That's the thing. I can take the audio from what I do here, and people can listen to it. That's actually was my question, because on Substack there's an option to do that as a podcast. If you want just audio, we can do that too. Thank you, Keith. Thank you so much. Thank you, Carmichael. Oh, Carmichael. Okay. 5 for me. Keith says 5. Okay. For me, 5 is better than 9, so I don't rush because it's an in-person meeting. So I'm not rushing with that. But yeah, I'll let you vote, and then we see each other tomorrow. A bunch of different events as to throughout the day, and I think the latest is Governor Walz holding a rally or an event at 7 p.m. Eastern. So it goes throughout the day. Whatever I can stream, I will do, and then whatever we miss, I'll post the links to official streams. Okay, Mr. Tropical. Yeah, I love the name, love the picture. Beautiful. Thank you guys. Okay, have a good night. Expect your email shortly, and I see you tomorrow.